next generation of warfare, psychological warfare. In modern conflict, the mind is a potent weapon. Discover General Michael T. Flynn's groundbreaking guide, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Unlock tactics, strategies, and the mindset to navigate this cognitive battlefield that we all find ourselves in. Equip yourself against manipulation and emerge unscathed. Unleash your potential. Order now.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Alpha Warrior Show. I hope you all got some sleep. If you're up with me last night on a conversation with Just Alpha, we didn't do too bad. I think we got it down to 3 hours. So one more hour to go and we'll get that baby down to 2. Great show. If you didn't see it, I suggest you go and catch the replay. A lot of feedback from that, and I do appreciate that. And especially when you guys tell me, hey, what about this and what about that? I enjoy those conversations. Tonight, shifting gears a little bit, away from the geopolitics and the conspiracies, and more about us. You know, it says in the title, stressful, uncertain times, healing matters. And this conversation I had with Tammy that we're going to watch right now was recorded on Sunday. And I could have gone 2, 3, 4 hours talking to her, and she's gonna be a recurring guest. I'll have her on probably about every other week, and I might even consider doing these shows with her live if we can find a way to line our schedules. Let me know if you guys would like that. So maybe she can take some live questions from you guys. But just this introduction to her, for those of you that don't know her, it just, the ultimate sovereignty that matters is our own. And this conversation that we're going to have right now is going to tee us up for that. So first, let's pay a bill and get this show on the road, because we do have DEF CON tonight. That'll be live with me and Josh, and that's at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you're watching on different platforms and you're like, what QR code? I don't see a QR code for Rumble Wallet on the screen. That's because you got to get on over here to Rumble so you can see it. If you're watching the replay, you'll catch that down in the description. But folks, and Rumble has taken care of us and given us a voice. They can freeze your accounts, shut off your cards, lock you out of your own money overnight. Or in my case, they gave me 21 days and said, you don't even get to appeal. Banks don't protect you, they control you. And that's what it felt like for me. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold, on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you get a direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That's power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer-to-peer, and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middleman, no cancel button. This wallet is yours forever. So screenshot that QR code. Or again, if you're watching the replay, that'll be down in the description. And if you're in the live chat, you'll see that pinned right there. And so that will secure that. And with that, we'll go to some of our favorites. And then when we come back, it's showtime.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
For the first time ever, we're bringing you MyPillow mattresses and mattress toppers for as low as $99.98. Remember, sleep's all about temperature and pressure points. Whatever sleep needs you have, we have the right technology for you. Like our MyPillow mattress topper, our queen size has over 10,000 individual comfort supports to help relieve your pressure points. And how about our 3-inch Hybrid Plus mattress topper? It's infused with copper and silver to help your body get the restorative sleep it needs. And our MyPillow and Case Coil mattresses, I personally helped develop these mattresses to make sure they have everything needed to give us great sleep. Plus, they're made right here in the USA, and they ship right to your front door absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get MyPillow mattresses and toppers for as low as $99.98 and free shipping.
Folks, remember, one of the reasons I can keep this show free is because of the awesome partnerships, affiliates, and sponsors that I have. So go down in the link below and support those people. You know, a lot of stuff can change your life. And one of the most important things that can change your life is your health. You know, if you guys saw this past weekend on People, I did an amazing show with a gentleman by the name of Jay, retired NYPD guy, Port Authority, was, you know, there during the time of 9/11. And I asked him, hey, you know, when you look back to when we were young fighters and warriors and you look to where you're at now, you know, what's more important to you now that wasn't then? And he paused, which I like because it means they're giving thought. And he says, my health. And he couldn't be more right. You know, 20s and 30s, you're 7 feet tall and bulletproof. You know, into the 30s, into the 40s, your body starts to act some weird ways. Takes longer to recover. And it's easy to say, well, it's just age. But is it? Is it just age? Or is it the things that we're putting in our bodies? Is it our environment? Is it the stuff that we're breathing? And if that is the case, does it mean that we just have to live with it? Are there things that we can take back to take control of the most important sovereignty that exists? And that's our own bodies. So with that, I want to bring on today's guest, who's going to be a reoccurring guest and put us on the path to hopefully, at what I would understand, taking back the sovereignty of our health. Tammy, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
I'm so excited to be here, Alpha. This is a wonderful audience. I think a few of your audience members have tapped into the naturally inspired community. So I'm excited to talk to you today.
As well, I am. You know, before we went on to the show, I kind of told you about, you know, and my audience knows some bad news that I got from a best friend. And I just think about, you know, when I first started this podcast, you know, there was three mission goals that I had. I wanted to be a voice for the J6ers. I wanted to be a voice for the information that was not coming out surrounding that bioweapon people were putting into their bodies. And I wanted to be a voice on what was going on in our country.
Yeah.
And I just saw so many people with platforms, millions of followers. I'm like, you could change the tide in one show. In one show, if you just told your audience what you know. And if you could even say, hey, look, this is what I'm hearing. I'm not completely sure, but maybe we can all research together. You could still turn the tide. And I just saw week after week, people weren't doing it. And people's lives were being harmed and destroyed. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to complain. I'm going to get in the fight. I'm going to get in the fight. I'm going to grab a microphone and a camera, which I would have never have fathomed.
Yeah, it's not easy. That's for sure.
You know,
yeah.
You know, to this day, you know, I'm just like, you know, you're going to get ums out of me. I'm human.
Yep.
I will do
I'm queen. I try.
I'll do my best. And in that time, and people started to see, you know, that I had certain doctors coming on, and I started to get the emails, Tammy. And I couldn't keep up with them.
Yeah.
And the most difficult part was I found myself going from a world of law enforcement, or if I went on a chaotic scene and I had to triage it, I was now in a digital world and having to do the same thing. I had to look at these emails where I could read people's anxiety.
Yes.
I could read their urgency. I could feel their pain and their concern, but I can't go to this doctor that I've developed a friendship with and be like, hey, here's 50 emails. Like it won't happen. So I'm sitting there thinking, how do I decide which are the two most important when they're all important? And I just felt this huge weight on me of, if I choose these two, what about these other ones that I didn't? And I struggled. I struggled with that a lot. And then, it was the conversation I would have with these doctors. Listen, I don't want you to think I'm exploiting our friendship. And I'm sure everybody you connect with probably has, the same issue that I'm dealing with now. Here's two people that I would just say, ask you to read, and then you can carry on from there. And then I started thinking, there has to be another way. People shouldn't have to wait for someone to hear their story and then to forward it to a doctor. And in the meantime, just wonder, did it get forward? Did a doctor know? Is a doctor even have the answer? Are they going to get back to me? Like, there has to be another way where we can take control of our own health, our own life. And I really hope you can provide us some clarity with that.
Oh gosh. First of all, thank you for talking about that, because everybody, this is the only way. The only way to take back control of our health is to take radical personal responsibility. And I know a lot of people don't. That sounds scary, right? Radical personal responsibility sounds scary, especially when it comes to our health. But I think the one thing that we have learned, we've learned a lot through COVID, but one of the main things that we have learned through COVID is that these expert agencies, the CDC, the FDA, the WHO, they're corrupt. They have been infiltrated. And we know now that they are corrupt. And listen, on the Naturally Inspired show that I do, I talk about this all the time. So many people don't know that these 3-letter agencies actually have foundations attached to them. So the CDC has the CDC Foundation. The WHO also has a foundation. The FDA even can, people donate to these agencies, okay? And they donate. I mean, that's how Bill Gates became the #1 donor to the WHO. He's funding them. And they are now so reliant upon this extra funding that that's how they operate. That's just one of the ways that they've been able to infiltrate and corrupt these so-called, gold standard 3-letter agencies that manage our health. They can't be trusted anymore. Our higher education, our whole infrastructure for higher education is funded by Big Pharma. I mean, it's not about health anymore through these agencies and through our higher education. It's about the economy, the Dow. It's about the Dow. It's about the the livelihood of these private equities firms like BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street. That's what controls our country now. That's what controls our country. And there is no health care. It is disease care. They manage diseases, and they manage diseases through medications. And so this is one of the things that I've struggled with. You talk about emails, and I have a health text line that I take questions on all the time. And one of the things I struggle with is, first of all, volume. It's like triage, right? So many people are harmed, especially since COVID, from Big Pharma. So many people now feel stuck because they don't know where to go. Maybe they didn't take the vaccine and they're not dealing with injury, but they're dealing with, who do I trust? Where do I go? Who do I trust? And the truth is, you've got to learn how to trust yourself. You've got to learn discernment when it comes to your own health. And the great news is, the information is available to us. We have more information available to us now than ever before. So you can go into your doctor's appointments armed with information. Can I please, talk to you about informed consent? I actually help people with the vocabulary on what to say to their doctors when their doctors say, I have to take this medication, or you have to take this medication, you have to do this. I say, okay. So then ask, what's the end in mind with this? Nobody ever asks, how can I get off this? Is this temporary? Because many doctors will just put you on something with no follow-up, and that is the answer. And that is not the answer, right? We want to get to root cause. But the only way to do this is to take radical personal responsibility. So I'm not saying go doctorless. I don't give medical advice at all. What I do is I connect people to information so that they can, I'm really building people's confidence back in their own human body. The confidence has been beat out of us through the years because we've been told you're not smart enough. You need a medical doctor for that. The FDA approves this. The CDC said we're following CDC guidelines. This is propaganda. This is conditioning to make you sever from your own heart center of knowing what's wrong with your body. It's outsourcing your agency to someone else. And that has been our biggest mistake in the healthcare system, is outsourcing.
It truly is. I mean, and I know, because I remember thinking back, I felt like, if I even questioned anything that my doctor was telling me, that I'm being out of bounds and it may be even disrespectful. I just got to trust what my doctor tells me, because this is the person that invested in their education. This is the person that got hired by this company. So, how dare I ask a question when the reality is, it's like, wait, this is my body.
And listen, nobody is more qualified to make decisions about your body than you. If you grew up, say you were 5 years old and you ate something, you drank a glass of milk. Okay. And after that glass of milk, you felt, you feel kind of sick after I drink milk. Right. Okay. But you kind of blow it off. But then you start to learn, every time I drink milk, I feel this way. If you go to a doctor, you say, every time I drink milk, I feel a certain way. And then they test you and they say, well, that's ridiculous. You're not lactose intolerant. Just keep drinking milk. That's what they do. That's what they do. And the truth is that testing is actually just a snapshot in time. It's just a snapshot in time. It's not a whole marker of your entire life. And a lot of times when people go in for blood pressure, say, they get their blood pressure checked, it's high. Where are you? You're in a doctor's office with someone who has a literal microscope looking at your biomarkers. Maybe you feel a little nervous, right? You might feel a little nervous, or maybe you feel a little disempowered when you go to your doctor. Like you can't speak your mind, like you can't say things because you feel that this person is on a pedestal and you don't want to say something stupid. So you don't want to even mention things because you don't want to be judged. This is the reality of going to a doctor. We actually feel these things in our body. The other thing that the allopathic model does not measure, which moving forward in the new frontier of medicine, this is where I love to talk about it because we have so much power over this part, is emotions and trauma and how that impacts our body. We're taught that we are kind of two systems. We have our mental and emotional faculties. We need a psychiatrist for that. And then we have our biology in our body, these markers. We need a medical doctor for that. It's not true. We're actually synergistic, and we have to treat the whole body. I have seen, I started my podcast in 2019 to bring real solutions to health to people. And I started with the intention of, I just want to talk about, things. Yeah, you're smiling because I bet you know. I'm just going to talk about real solutions for health. I'm not going to get into vaccines, Alpha. I'm not going to talk about the controversial stuff around medicine, even though I know all about Rockefeller medicine. I know all about the Flexner report. I know about the race for the universal vaccine. I knew about all this stuff, right? I've been married to a conspiracy theorist for 30 years. I know all this stuff, right? But I truly just started in 2019 because I just thought, more moms need to know that they have control over their kids' health. They don't have to medicate their kids. That's really why I wanted to start. And then COVID hit, and I had to talk about vaccines and whatnot. Because it became very heavy on my heart that I had to talk about it. I knew what it was. I was already familiar with Children's Health Defense. My son had been injured by a flu shot. And so I had to speak out. I had to speak out about the dangers of it. And that really changed the course of Naturally Inspired. But I've talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people through assessments now. And they have no idea what they're taking, and they have no idea that much of what they're taking is actually treating the side effect of another medication. And this may, when people find this out, I'm like, listen, again, I'm not a medical doctor. I tell everybody right up, I don't give medical advice. I'm a holistic nutritionist. I help people connect to real solutions for health. And here's what you need to know about the medications you're taking. Okay, because a lot of times we're on polypharmacy. And this is when, like, for example, this is a very easy thing to describe because many people go through this. Pain, right? I figure skated from when I started figure skating when I was 2, and I stopped when I was 20. So like a lot of falls, a lot of this, pain. You get pain, right? When you're an athlete. And so you learn that you can take an NSAID or a pain reliever and pain goes away. But what we don't learn is that chronic use of pain relievers lead to polypharmacy. And that's just something you can grab off of the shelf in a grocery store or at Walgreens or at CVS. But we're not taught that an anti-inflammatory like that can disrupt your gut microbiome. And when you have a disrupted gut microbiome, you often need a PPI eventually, which is a proton pump inhibitor. So things for like GERD, antacids, those types of things. And again, you think, oh, it's just a stomach ache. It's just heartburn. It's benign. It's no big deal. But it's not. It's actually a signal from your body, and your body whispers before it screams. So it'll give you these little hints. And so when you have to take a PPI, an acid suppressing medication like that, it means you have low stomach acid. It means you have poor protein digestion. It means mineral deficiency. And we're not taught that. So we're covering it up. And then what happens after that? Well, now your blood pressure goes because you have this gut microbiome disruption. You're not absorbing protein. You have a mineral deficiency. And then the blood pressure goes high. And then when the blood pressure goes high, because also NSAIDs cause fluid retention and increased vascular resistance, then you get a blood pressure medication. Okay, so you started with pain. Then you had a stomach problem and you went to PPIs. And then from PPIs, you go to blood pressure. From blood pressure, you know what happens after that? Almost simultaneously, they prescribe a water pill. So now you're on a water pill. And when you're on a water pill, it contributes to electrolyte depletion. And then that causes muscle cramps. You're waking up in the middle of the night with restless legs and cramps and fatigue. And then they start with more supplementation with electrolytes. They'll prescribe that, things like potassium chloride. And then after that, you start having kidney dysfunction. So that's the cascade from something as simple as being an athlete and having some pain and relying on NSAIDs and pain medication to treat that from that root cause. So that's just one kind of cascade that happens with pharmaceuticals, but this happens with SSRIs as well. SSRIs are so dangerous. And I was talking to somebody else about this, about how we actually self-diagnose now a lot of the times. So we see a commercial on TV and it says, "Are you sad? Are you this? Are you feeling, down? You don't have to, right? And we hear these words, Alpha, in our culture. We hear the words of anxiety. We hear these ADHD. We hear these words and we start to self-identify with them. And so when we show up in a doctor's office, we use that vocabulary. And when we use that vocabulary, we're self-diagnosing. So it's not somebody has told us at this point. Who diagnosed? We did, because we saw a TV commercial. We have social engineering. We have TikTok videos that are completely designed around someone's journey on SSRIs. Their TikTok video, their diagnosis has become their identity. And most of the time, we're self-diagnosing. So we're just responding to our culture. We go in, we use a word like anxiety. I have anxiety, I have this, I have that. Okay, so a 9-minute visit is what the insurance companies allot when you go see a doctor. It's a 9 minutes is what they have. And listen, everybody, you don't even have to feel scared about taking personal responsibility for your health, because it's not your doctor it's not the experts putting in these guidelines anymore. It's insurance companies with no medical degrees, right? They're the ones that say 9-minute visits with your doctor is what you need. They're the ones who dictate the solution for the diagnosis. That's why we have codes, medical codes and diagnosis, so that they can submit them to insurance and it can be paid. So we go in self-diagnosing. Oh, I've got anxiety. A life event has happened and now I have anxiety. Listen, and I say this with the deepest of empathy. We feel things as human beings, okay? And you can't cover that up and not process it. So we have life events, divorce, death, strained relationships, traumatic incidences that we go through. Medicating them does not remedy them. We have to process them and integrate them into our identity. When we have traumatic events, we don't just heal them with pills and they go away. Okay. They actually stay in our tissues. So there's somatic practice, which is when people work to release trauma from their tissues. So sometimes, like a really well-informed, well-trained masseuse or somatic energy worker that does body work, they will release energy from your tissues and people just scream and cry right on the table. Because when we don't express, it's like feeling nervous. When we feel nervous, you get butterflies. That's energy. When you have a traumatic experience and you don't express it, like say you were in a position or in a family where emotion is not welcomed, right? You learn very quickly from 0 to 7, we learn our stress response is wired, and that's when our personality is formed. And so we learn how to deal with stress from 0 to 7. And if we're raised in a family where you don't talk about these stresses and traumas, they stay in your tissue. Okay, so we can actually work to release these things. But we're not taught this vocabulary. We're not taught that this is how the human body works. We're taught if you have a problem, you have emotions, you feel discomfort, especially in today's world. It's like we're not supposed to ever feel discomfort. We're not supposed to ever feel anything that makes us uncomfortable. And that is not true. Life is not Instagram reel ready.
To that point, Tammy, one of the things, and I get it, people say, well, it's a movie. We don't compare to a movie. And people have started to kind of get that. But I think that there's this other one that was implemented into our big screens, and that's reality TV.
Oh, yes.
It's called reality TV. And I would always argue with people. It's like, one, I'd be like, why are you spending your currency of time to watch someone else live their life? Like you're literally saying, hey, I'm going to take my time, my moments of my heart beating and my body breathing to watch somebody else live. Like that's what you're doing. Like, and then on top of that, you are comparing your life to this when this is not this is a reality show. They're gonna have cuts. They're gonna have outtakes. You're not gonna see everything. And so people think, well, if that's how they handle stress, and then people create this false reality of what they're supposed to feel like if there's a breakup or a kid is sick or a loss of a parent, and it's just like, it's not true. So then when people see those ads about anxiety and they're like, yeah, I have that. When I see, because I'll still watch mainstream to catch, see what their agendas and see where they're going. And I look at these, these pharma ads come across. I'm like, you just described like 90% of the population,
Yes.
like, with everything that's going on.
Yes.
And then people, again, you're right, they self-diagnose.
Yes. And to your point, like, they describe 90% of the population. Listen, if you look up MS, okay, serious, right? That's a serious thing. People hear that word and it's scary, which is one of the variables that drives the allopathic model of medicine is fear. Okay, fear, and I say idiopathic. Without these two things being a part of the allopathic medical model, it can't operate. They need fear for you to take the action without using discernment. And they need the term idiopathic to try to get you to feel like, we don't know why this happens. I'm a sitting duck. I have no control over it. So I denounce both of those terms in the medical model. But take MS, for example, instant fear. 300 different symptoms that go under the heading of MS. Okay, 300 different ones. Take anxiety. 300 different symptoms that go into the diagnosis of anxiety. Over half of those symptoms overlap. So it's a catch-all. It's a catch-all. But even more kind of nefarious about it is, with a diagnosis comes a label for life. And they'll determine that you can never be without that label. And that's not true. There are people that have gotten that label and no longer carry that label. But they don't focus on that, and they never tell anybody that. They are making customers for life here. Make no mistake about it. That's how the whole model continues to go on, is because you get these diagnoses and you're just supposed to accept them for the rest of your life. And I just don't believe that. That is not what I've seen in my experience. And I just don't think that God made people ill. I think illness and disease comes from, honestly, it comes from man. It's man-made. All illness and disease is man-made. And so I am a firm believer that you can always get back to homeostasis. Your body is designed in your DNA. Your body is designed to thrive and live. It doesn't know how to fight against you. And every disease in the allopathic model is fight against cancer. Fight against Alzheimer's, fight against obesity. They're telling you all the time to fight against your body. And I'm here to tell you, you will never win. You don't need to fight against your body. Your body is on your side. It's your biggest ally. It only knows how to signal. It's always trying to communicate with you. Something's wrong here. We need to fix this. You never have to fight against your body. You're never in a battle with your biology. Your biology is doing whatever it can to save your life. I had a client one time. He ended up having a brain clot. He had a clot in his brain. He did not know it because his body diverted the blood a different way to continue to get blood to his brain. Okay, so that's the epitome of your body. It will find a way if you don't block it. But pharmaceuticals, a lot of times, are blocking the body's natural response to heal. And then when we get further, I'll get into this now. Polypharmacy. It's a term that everybody should know. Okay, so what ends up happening is what I call medical wreckage. Okay, so with SSRI, since we were talking about those, we go in, we self-diagnose. We see something on TV, we have a friend, we follow TikTok accounts, whatever it is that has given us the exposure to even know about anxiety. Okay, we go in and we self-diagnose and we say, I'm dealing with anxiety. In reality, this person could have lost a parent, lost a spouse, been under extreme financial, hardship. They have something going on in their life. And we can't medicate our circumstances away, So I call that kicking the can down the road, because what you're doing is you're blunting what the circumstance is, because it's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to have these feelings. We're humans. But if you blunt them with a pharmaceutical, you kick the can down the road. But when you kick the can down the road, not only do you have to deal with the feelings and the traumatic experience, but now you have to deal with pharma fallout, is what I call it. And pharma fallout from like an SSRI. So you go into a doctor's office, you get on SSRIs because you've had this circumstance in your life that's caused you a lot of nervous energy, a lot of anxiety. You go on this. Common side effects of SSRIs, weight gain, a lot of weight gain, not 5 pounds. Like some people I work with have gained 40 to 50 pounds from SSRIs. Okay. Sexual dysfunction. And this is a dirty little secret because nobody wants to talk about it. They don't want to talk about ED when they're in their 30s. They don't want to talk about not having any libido for their husband as a woman because they take it on as a personal defect. And they're not correlating it with the medication. So this is a dirty little secret, the sexual dysfunction thing when it comes to SSRIs. Not only that, insomnia. So insomnia is a side effect of SSRIs. How do you think you're feeling if you're not sleeping? Terrible. Terrible, right? Because your whole detox process happens when you're sleeping. So if you're not going through a lymphatic detox when you're sleeping, because that's part of the detox process when you go to sleep every night, you're going to feel pretty rough. Okay, so it's doing that to you. Not only that, then we have the GI disruption. So the heartburn, the GERD, the gut microbiome change. And then, of course, there's emotional blunting that comes along with these medications as well. And so you start to question yourself, like, what's wrong with me? Go back to the doctor. Guess what they give you? They give you now sleep medication. They give you antacids, proton pump inhibitors. Right? So they're now medicating your side effects to the medication. So you still have your circumstances, you're just not dealing with them. Now you have gastrointestinal issues, you're having sleep problems, you're having medications for those. Then you have weight gain, and maybe they'll throw you on a GLP-1 now. And it just keeps going, right? And you're told that, oh, this is just you getting older, right? And in reality, no, you're actually treating your side effects to the very first medication. And that's called polypharmacy. The average American now is on 4 to 5 prescription medications, and they have started SSRI use on children.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So can you imagine you start on an SSRI when you're 10, which happens, and do you think your gut microbiome might be disrupted by the time you're, say, 13 or 14? And then you start, with depression because your gut health is directly linked to your mental health. And then you're put on. And so people can live for decades not really knowing where they're at in their own biology. Like, where am I really? Because I'm so medicated, I don't even really know where my health is. And so that's, you have to peel back those layers, but there's a lot of people dealing with that kind of pharma wreckage nowadays. And in the naturally inspired community, that's why I started it. We talked about at the beginning here of your emails that you're getting from people that are desperate for help. And You have to take personal responsibility for your own health at this point. I can't take on the responsibility because like recently, like my YouTube channel's done. They've taken me off of YouTube again. And I can put clips on there, but I'm not allowed on YouTube. I'm not allowed to have a Facebook. This is serious business. You know, medicine is serious business. It's a lot of money. And they gatekeep it very closely. And they put it under the heading of, you know, I'm dangerous. Someone who's telling you what to eat, when to eat, you know, using your own hormones to your benefit, understanding hormones like ghrelin. I talk about ghrelin all the time. Ghrelin is your hunger hormone and leptin is your satiety hormone. Now, if you understand ghrelin and you understand leptin and you understand how to eat to support those hormones, you don't have a weight problem. But in our diet culture, what they have taught people is
I've never heard those two.
Really? You've never heard those two words in your life? Well, let me go in a little deeper than that because this will help people so much because America obviously has an obesity problem. And we are taught because we in America, we really focus on aesthetics, right? We're all about aesthetics here, which great. And I'm for aesthetics too. I mean, you should look your best, feel your best. I do believe that. But with the aesthetic kind of industry, they believe in manipulating the body into a certain form. So we have people that use Botox, fillers. You know, we have people who take fat out of their tummy and put it on their butt. You know, it's like, we'll do all kinds of crazy things. And that's the trick because they make you think that that is what you have to do to achieve an aesthetic. And in reality, what we really need to do is understand our hormones and understand our hypothalamus, how our body works. So we have these we have a whole bunch of hormones, but two of them that you really need to know about. Ghrelin is your hunger hormone. Okay. You can always remember that by ghrelin, hungry. And that's like, you know, it's a biological marker. Okay. So, you know, our heartbeat is a biological marker, right? And we don't control our heartbeat, right? We're not like beat. We're not thinking about, right? We have no control over our heartbeat. Thank God, because we'd probably all be dead, right? Oh, I forgot to beat my heart this morning. But ghrelin is a similar thing. Ghrelin is a biological urge. If we didn't have ghrelin, we wouldn't feel hungry. And what diet culture taught us is to come at it from a deprivation model. All you got to do is don't eat so much. Just don't eat so much, right? But that's like telling your heartbeat not to beat because you have a biological response called ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone. So that's stupid, and that's why it never worked. That's why at the beginning of diet culture in the late 70s and 80s, we didn't really have an obesity problem. If people were overweight, it was like maybe 15 to 20 pounds overweight. It's very rare to see obese people. You see pictures of people on the beach now from the 70s and 60s, and you're like, there was nobody overweight. Okay. That's because they actually ate to satiety. And I'll explain. So ghrelin is your hunger hormone. You can't override it forever. Leptin is your satiety hormone. Okay. Leptin. And when we eat to satiety, then we get a leptin response. And so we don't want to eat anymore. So we have a stomach that has motility and the stomach moves. Okay. When it moves, it's signaling to the brain and then the brain releases these hormones. That's why a lot of people take Ozempic and these weight loss drugs now. The reason why it's working is because, well, Ozempic in particular is made from Gila monster venom, and that causes stomach paralysis. So it stops your stomach from moving, and that sends a message to the hypothalamus to produce a leptin. When we produce leptin, we're not hungry. But the problem is you have food in your stomach that is essentially rotting because your stomach's motility is paralyzed. So we see people with chronic vomiting because it's got to get out of there somehow. Or it's literally breaking down way too slow. So it's causing a lot of GI problems and other issues, thyroid issues. And that's not me saying that. You can look on the drugs.com website and see all that information for yourself. So, but that's what's happening when people are taking those drugs. Now, listen, we can do this naturally. We were designed to do this naturally ourselves. How do you trigger leptin? High amounts of protein, high amounts of fat. Now, back in the 70s and 80s, what happened was something called diet culture. And everybody thought, wow, it's interesting. They started releasing all these fat-free diet culture types of foods. Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Slim Fast, all these, we've all heard them. If you're over the age of 40, you know all these things I'm talking about. That was diet culture. And a lot of people thought, well, they brought all these these products to the market because people were fat. Not really. Not really. They brought these things to the market because they centralized our food supply. They centralized our food supply, meaning huge megacorps started buying up all the mom and pop suppliers of food. And all you need to do to understand what happened here is, remember Ritz crackers when we were kids?
I do.
They were flaky, they were thick, Eat a Ritz cracker today. It doesn't taste anything like it used to when we were kids. That's because it's totally different ingredients now. When they centralized it, so these big corporations came up, they came in, they bought up a lot of these smaller corporations, and they centralized. And so they built these big manufacturing plants in the country, and they started making these products for the bigger corporations, and they centralized the food supply. So now the food had to get to all the grocery stores all over the country, right? But in order to do that and have those foods not perish before it got to the shelf, they had to take out all of the whole food ingredients, things like lard, things like butter, eggs. This is real food, and they exchanged it for industrial oils like soybean oil, vegetable oil, because that stuff doesn't go bad. So they made that swap, and they also took the nutrition out of these foods when they did that, because our brains need fat. They're 65% fat. Our brains need fat to survive. But what this diet culture did is it taught people not to eat fat, that fat makes you fat. No, fat triggers your leptin response. Protein triggers your leptin response.
Talk about sabotage.
Right? So we're overeating on nutrient bankrupt foods, eating more calories than we would ever eat if we just ate the fat and the protein. So that's how we became such an obese nation, is we got conditioned into thinking that we eat popcorn and chips and light things, and that never, ever triggers the leptin response.
You are answering so many questions just for me. And listen, folks, we're going to be having routine conversations with Tammy, but I want to make sure she lets you guys know how to find her and all that stuff. But when I lost my career in law enforcement, that took away my medical benefits. So then I go into, and I'll fire through this real quick. So we get into 2019, 2020. Got no medical benefits. I'm in the fight for my career. So that's the legal fight, the legal costs, and then all of a sudden I get hit with the FBI, the January 6th thing. And so now it's more of a financial crisis, more of is my freedom at stake? Who's going to take care of my family? Where will they live? I mean, it was this stack, stress, anxiety. And then knowing that, if something happens, I can't even get hurt right now. Like, I got to make sure I don't get hurt, because that will add a financial burden that I'm not prepared for. So I go through, 2021 to 20, the first couple of days of 2025, probably some of the most stressful times, if not the most stressful time in my life, to experience all that you're talking about. Had I not been, snagged out of the matrix on what's going on in the world, every ad I would have saw, it's exactly what you described in this show. That's me. So it's almost kind of like, divine intervention that I didn't have medical benefits because I couldn't go that way.
Yeah.
So during all that, because I've always kept myself healthy, but during that time, all the stress, I got to work this job, 3 different jobs. There was no time for the gym. And since
Yeah.
I'm always, on the go, my nutrition turned to what's open on Interstate 60, what's open on Interstate 10. Well, it's not going to be healthy stuff,
Yeah.
so then the weight starts to pile on. And then you don't feel good, and then it's sleep deprivation. Like everything you have talked about, you described that 4.5 year nightmare that I went through. And it finally came to the point where divine intervention, I win my case against the government. So there's a huge weight that comes off. And then it turns into, okay, I remember all the way back, when my partner died and they diagnosed me with anxiety and PTSD as a cop. And they say, hey, there's this little pill called Xanax, and I was not raised that way. Like my mom, it took like we had to be bad to even get something like Formula 44, if you remember that stuff.
Yeah. Well, you're Latino, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So my husband's Latino. I know all about that. Like you're putting tomatoes on your throat before you guys do anything.
100%. Here's garlic, shove
Yep.
it down your throat,
Sorry.
raw garlic. That's the way it was.
Yeah.
Now it's like this Xanax thing, but my anxiety was very bad. So
Of
I take
course.
and this is, at the time that I was taking this, I was probably about a good 234 pounds. And all they were giving me was a 0.5 milligram dosage,
Mhm.
which as I studied, I realized that's not even a high dosage. But even with that dosage, I noticed the impact that it had on me. But then it got to a point where I went through, Tammy, researched every website. How do you beat anxiety? What's the thing? And there was not one site that told you how to beat it. Every site told you how to live with it,
Yes.
how to make it a part of your life. And I was just like, well, I got 2 issues here. One, if I become dependent on Xanax, I can't be a cop because I can't drive a police car or carry a gun. And 2, if you're telling me this is a mental thing in my body, how are you going to tell me that's not fixable?
Yeah.
And so I threw everything away and said, if that is what it's going to cost me, if ultimately it's going to come down to a pill, fine. But that's not going to be option 1. I know my body's out of whack. I know I'm not healthy. I know that I've gained a lot of weight. I know that I'm not working out. So I'm going to give my body its best fight first. And then let's reevaluate how we feel. And
Yeah.
so when I came to this modern day nightmare, I remembered that. And I said, hey, let's start working out again. Let's start running again. Let's eat again. Eat the right way. Let's sleep the right way. And as the pounds came off, the self-confidence went up. The sleep, you work out, now you're tired, so you're definitely going to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
tired. So then you start to sleep better. And little by little, it's like, hey, I'm feeling good and I haven't put anything in my body.
Isn't
And,
that
and I'm
amazing?
listening to you describe this and I'm just like, I hope people are hearing what you're saying. Cause I have no doubt in my mind, Tammy, that there are people that have been living this way for decades and they're tired of it. They're exhausted of it. They're probably shedding tears while they're listening to this conversation. And I'm telling you, I'm a living example. I am a living example. Call it anecdotal, whatever you want. I'm not a doctor, but I am a person who's lived these experiences and have learned that if you take care of your body, and I think you call it homeostasis,
Yeah. Yeah.
that you bring your body back into, your body is a battle machine
Absolutely.
to live.
You are not frail. You are not frail. And that's one of the lies that the allopathic model will tell you, is that you are frail and you're not. But you talked about anxiety there. And I just want to give this tip to people. If you're struggling with anxiety, think about how much time you are spending in the future, because that's what anxiety is. It's when you allow your brain to try to project what's going to happen in the future, or you're ruminating on something from the past. You're not living in the moment. So if you can, because we have these neural pathways in our brain, and what happens is it's kind of like you're standing in a meadow of high grass. Okay. You're in a meadow. There's really high grass. You can only see one pathway to the other side across the meadow. That's a neural pathway. And those neural pathways are built primarily when we're 0 to 7. They're built very deep. Okay. And we just are used to taking that pathway. That's just the pathway we know. But it doesn't mean that we can't build other pathways in the meadow. Just by walking through the grass a few more times, you'll build a pathway that way. So right now, if you're experiencing anxiety, you have built pathways where you are projecting the future all the time, or you're ruminating on the past all the time. And when your brain gets going too fast, because your brain is wired to detect threats, that's what we're here. Whoa, where's the threat? Where's the threat? When your brain gets on that pathway and stays there too long, you experience anxiety. So you have to bring it back to the moment. The very best thing you can do for anxiety is slow down. Slow down and start forcing your thoughts to live in the moment. Start forcing your focus on what's right in front of you, right in this minute. So when you feel that wave coming on, whoosh, grab it back. Wiggle your toes. Pull yourself into your flesh. Listen for your heartbeat. Slow your breath down. You have so much control over your biology. And we all know this. We all know this. I said this on your buddy Josh's show the other night. If you don't think you have control over your biology, go sexy time in your mind. Right? That's the very tangible way of understanding how much your thoughts control your biology. They're the only thing that control your biology. Your thoughts. I mean, we deal with toxic exposure, and that's another reason why people experience dis-ease in the body, because of toxic exposure. But your thoughts are the most powerful thing for your biological expression. So when you're experiencing anxiety, it's not a body problem. It's a thought problem. When you're experiencing being obese, it's not a body problem. It's a brain problem. It's the hypothalamus. And so we've been looking at these things all wrong. And two things that people are really, experiencing today, like on my health text line. Number one is inflammation. Okay. We deal with inflammation every day, just living. We're breathing in stuff that gives us inflammation. We're eating foods that gives us inflammation. And when we have inflammation, often pain follows right behind it. So instead of taking, pain medication or reaching for pain medication, I like to teach people on how to eat for anti-inflammatory markers, right? So one of the things I am partnered with a product line, and one of my favorite products is my Cellular Reset. It's called Vivix. It is polyphenols. So polyphenols in plants. So we wonder why trees can live so long. They study trees. And why do trees live hundreds and hundreds of years long? Well, what we know is polyphenols it preserves and rectifies oxidative stress in the body. And so things like pomegranate, resveratrol. People may have heard resveratrol from France. People like, oh, the French, they drink so much red wine, they don't age, and they're in better health than Americans, and they are, unfortunately. But I have a lot of faith in the American people, and we may be the sickest nation on earth. But once people grasp on to true health and understand this information, we're going to turn this whole thing around. I truly believe that, Alpha, because the American people are resilient. I do a little segment on my show. It's called the American Culture segment. And the reason why I started it is because there was this movement to condition Americans that we don't have a culture. Oh, you don't have a culture. You're just a mishmash of everybody else's culture, right? Well, that is purposeful. That is purposeful, because if a nation does not have a culture, then they're up for grabs, and any culture can claim it.
Very true.
So that's why I talk about American culture all the time. And we may be the sickest people right now, but when we get this information and we understand how to work, for our health, then one of our culture pinpointing American culture is perseverance. This is a fundamental characteristic of Americans is perseverance. And so I know that once people get this information, then we will be able to change the culture of health in our country. I don't believe changing health is going to come from our administration. I think our administration can help with policy and things of that nature, but it is going to be us that changes the culture. It's going to be how we act. So if we can pause when we get pain and say, do I need a pain reliever, or do I need something like polyphenols to reduce pain? Do I need an SSRI, or do I need to work through this energy in my body by activating my vagus nerve, or using herbs like a stress complex or a mood uplift that has ashwagandha and plants in it that don't disrupt your gut microbiome, that don't lead to more cascading effects. When we train ourselves that we go to nature for remedy, we're going to see our health completely shift. So it's just a matter of time.
It is a matter of time, and I am unfortunately
Out of
out
time.
of time right now. Folks, just so you know, Tammy will be back here again. So in 2 weeks, I believe, and so we will continue these conversations. There'll be ongoing conversations, and I want to tell you guys, I've been there. I've seen all the infomercials. I've seen the stuff late at night because you have an insomnia and you can't sleep. Don't think that they don't strategically position those commercials for you. And it's like, does it really work? I will tell you this. If you're here, it's probably because you trust me. And I will put my hand on the Bible. I am taking 0 medications right now. Go look at my podcast from 3 years ago and look at the roundness that's going to be in my face. Go look at the way, I still got some raccoon circles here, but go look how bad they were then. It was just a life change. It's everything that Tammy's been talking about here, except I struggle. I didn't have someone to be like, Tammy, I need to call up your number. I need to go to your website, which you've seen it scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Those links will be down below. I had to do this research, and you guys are now empowered with it. I'm going to have Tammy here. You're going to have the website to go to learn more about what she does. You can do it. And all I've done is I get sun, I go to the gym, I run, I do my cold plunge that you guys all make fun of me. Life changing, you gotta try it. And I eat better. I'm not perfect. Eating is still something I got to work on, but I am 90% better than what I was before. That the last time I probably had fast food was some French fries, and that's been months since that's happened. You can do this. You just got to make the commitment to do it. Tammy, final words on the way out, and I can't wait for the next conversation.
Yeah, I would just echo exactly what you said. I work with people every day and in our community. And the way I set up Naturally Inspired is that, I'm partnered with a product line, full transparency. These products work. I love them. When you use my products, you get all of my coaching for free. Nobody else does that. And the reason why is you might think, well, why does she do that? Because my colleagues charge thousands of dollars for their services, and they ask you to buy wellness products on top of it. They ask you to buy polyphenols. They ask you to buy omega-3s. They ask you to buy the stress complex on top of it. It's not sustainable. I'm counting on you, the American population, to change the culture of health in our country for our children. Our children, I do not want our children being fed pills and thinking that that's the only way. So I know that when you get results, you're going to tell people, and you're going to change the way you do things as an American citizen, and that changes our culture. So I want to help as many people as possible. And I know if it costs thousands of dollars to work with somebody like me, not very many people are going to be able to do that. So that's why I started the Naturally Inspired community. And we're here for it, to support you along the way with my health text line, with our Tuesday night weekly wellness workshops, and with this partnered product line that brings real results. So I welcome all of the Alpha Warrior community into the Naturally Inspired community. And I love this synergy that we all have here that are helping Americans know what the truth is and get the tools that they need to live healthy lives. So I appreciate you having me on here today, Alpha.
Absolutely. The honor and the gift has been mine. If you're listening and not watching because you're driving, don't worry. The links will be there forever for you to find them. But you can go to alphawarriorhealth.com and that will take you straight to Tammy. Folks, find your why. You know, it doesn't have to be mine. It doesn't have to be Tammy's, but find your why. Find your real why. And you will see how much that you can accomplish. With that, you guys, good night. God bless. Semper Fi. I will catch you on the next one.